Hi there, my name's Amber Marie Edwards. I'm a 2D illustrator and 3D artist. I currently work at Firesprite Game Studios, primarily as a 3D environment artist. Thanks for watching and being part of my talk today, Student to Industry and Beyond. The main aim of this talk is to inspire those students currently studying in their chosen fields and those of you trying to break into industry. I hope to motivate and encourage you on your own learning journeys, and I'd like to start by saying it is a lot of hard work, but with the dedication to your own self-improvement when developing your portfolios, one day you can get there. As well as this, I hope that by discussing my experiences, that I can show that even when you do break into industry, you are continually improving your skills. So let's get to it. So to start with, I'll just go through a little bit about me. I have 6 years experience as a 3D environment artist. I started off at Warner Brothers TT Game Studios as a junior 3D artist. I stayed at TT for a wonderful 5.5 years and worked on a total of 7 games. I've just recently left and joined as a 3D artist at Firesprite. So before joining uni, I just had 3 average A-levels. I was just a self-taught traditional artist that focused mostly on drawing portraits. I didn't do any type of specific art-based fundamental courses, and in fact, mostly growing up I wanted to be an animator, and it wasn't until I attended all my course options I realised it really wasn't for me. I then discovered the Huddersfield University Digital Arts Practice Honours degree at the UCO, browsing online, and I thought it sounded similar to what I was doing at home. So prior to that, the most digital art I did at that point was aged 11, pixel art character sheets using MS Paint and a mouse, and then that kind of progressed till the age of 13 when I got my first tablet and I learnt about digital painting in Photoshop. So with that in mind, I had no idea about the games industry up until the day of that course interview. I wasn't what you consider a gamer, but I did have my own personal memories of games that I loved playing as a kid. But I didn't realise people did this as a career. During the interview for the degree, my then-to-be tutor said he could see my traditional skill set and my understanding of colour theory transferring really well into 3D. And back then I didn't even have a full understanding what colour theory was, so I must have been doing something right. Honestly, at the time it just blew my mind that one day I would be able to help make memories for future players, that they, like me, would develop their own fond memories and moments within the games that they played, and I could do that through the medium of 2D and 3D art, which, I mean, at the time 3D art was just so new to me. It was like a surreal realisation, but I felt like this was the perfect fit for me. The degree itself, though, it wasn't just aimed at the games industry. It was more of a digital generalist course, but that path kind of developed for me further during my time studying. So now, having a bit of background information, this next part of the talk is mostly going to be my advice for students. I'm now going to show you pieces of work that I made during my time at uni, and this is purely to show you that with time you will get better and that we all have our beginnings. As I said pre the course, I had no prior knowledge of 3D art whatsoever, and you can see here that I wasn't that great. I lacked a lot of fundamental knowledge. You can, however, see the transition of each year that passed. My work improved the more hard work and practice that I put in. And even after my time at university, I was continually developing on my portfolio. My progression in learning didn't stop after leaving education at that point. I kind of feel like it's so important to know that no one expects you to be instantly amazing at your discipline, especially for entry-level positions. Employers kind of want to see your potential. So to students just starting out, my advice would be don't expect it to be a similar format to what it was like being taught at previous levels of education. You must go out and learn for yourself. No one's going to tell you what you have to do. At this stage of education, it's kind of a combination of ongoing self-learning processes. The universities, the tutors, your educators, they're all there to give you the support, tools and basics. But if you really want to go further, you have to be self-sufficient and driven with your own development. Take on feedback that they give you, as at the end of the day, all they want is for you to achieve the best that you can. And you need to be able to demonstrate a high level of self-motivation and develop a good work ethic for continued learning. To achieve this, I recommend learning how to learn effectively, as weird as that might sound, and learning about time management. This will help support you in developing your chosen discipline. By making use of your time during your studies and breaking down what you aim to learn, it will enable you to just slowly start building a strong and better portfolio. Just planning your time effectively, you can still enjoy producing work, but with less pressure on yourself, and trust me, with good organisation, you will enjoy what you're learning so much more. If you can, I'd recommend working together in small groups with your peers, especially on projects. You will end up working with other peers with varying ability differences, so just try and keep in mind that it's not a race. Everyone learns at different rates, and with time your skills will grow. You don't need to be competing with each other. The only person you kind of have to compete with really is yourself. And adding on to that, my advice would be, rather than looking to each other as a level of where you are with your ability, try and look to artists in industry as a source of inspiration to where you want to be. Whilst you're a student as well, just helping each other learn. Working together has so many benefits, and if you think about the games industry, you will be working in a team with others. There's nothing like when you and your team figure things out and create things together, especially when problem solving. And try and show this in your portfolio, because it's as much about your personable skills as it is your work. Another thing that I'd recommend learning is the ability to take constructive criticism. Always seek feedback from other artists and not just your peers and tutors. You'd be surprised reaching out to artists in industry for opinions. You'll find the majority of us that have the time are more than happy to try and answer questions, but please don't be disheartened if they don't get back. Just be mindful that they may have life things going on, or they might just not have the time. During your time in education, try to take advantage of all the resources available to you. Compared to what there is now to when I was studying at university, there's just so much out there on the internet, it's incredible. You can pretty much find anything you're after just using Google. Go on sites such as YouTube and seek out channels relevant to your discipline. During my digital art course, as an example, a channel I used to follow since the start of my studies was Feng Zhu Design. He's an incredible artist and a huge inspiration. I used to watch his videos back then and I still do today. I'd also recommend that you start looking at sites such as Level 80, where they have so much information with works from those in industry with breakdowns based on so many disciplines. And it's where I still currently look today for up-to-date techniques. When it comes to learning new softwares, I'd recommend going directly to their websites, as they will have the documentation that explains how to use their tools for development. And with that in mind, I'd also recommend you going out and learning a game engine such as Unreal Engine 4, as game companies more often than not want to see you're able to get what you make working in game. In addition to students and those trying to get in industry, I'd also recommend you start learning to network with others. There are game industry communities on forums or Discord channels such as Experience Points and Dynasty Empire that you can just sign up to. These not only have like a wealth of information, but additionally you can get help and support with feedback on your own work from others who are both in and out of industry, with links to so many resources. It's also filled with people with all varying levels of ability. So with that in mind, I'd like to also talk about levels of confidence. When I've been into universities, I've seen so many anxious students when reviewing portfolios and giving advice, often hearing the same insecurities that I myself had about not being good enough and relating so hard to them. It's what will hold you back, and it's something that's held me back from a lot of opportunities, and I've learned the hard way on this. Anxiety is something that kind of never fully goes away. It's something that's always there with you, but with time and practice, hopefully you will learn to develop ways of managing it when it arises. Equally, the opposite side to that is ego and arrogance, of which I have seen students and known peers on my own course with an expectation that they're already great, they don't take feedback very well, or that they deserve to be in the industry. No questions asked, regardless of their level of skills, and wonder why, as a candidate, they can't get in. Being humble about your work will help you grow as a better artist. You can get on more with those around you, and by being helpful and kind, you will go further with those you interact with. Remember, you're not competing against each other. So with the soft skill sets out of the way, I have a few more tips. Now, I am guilty of doing this myself, especially when I was younger, and some days I still do it now, but I've gotten better with it. Learn to be patient with yourself. It takes time and practice to get better. Try not to compare yourself to those that have been in industry for years and be inspired by them. See them as the bar that one day you too will get at with the hard work that you put in with time. So my most important piece of advice that I want to get across to students is focus on the discipline that you are passionate about when it comes to the route you want to go into the games industry. Be it character artist, concept artist, VFX artist, whatever it is that you love the most, go and do that. I'll admit here and now that I used to give advice to students to just focus on breaking in the industry, regardless of discipline, and reflecting on that now, and I've learnt from that, it was the wrong advice to give. as that was advice that was once given to me, and I've learned from that since. I hope by admitting that here I can make up for that. Focus your skills on what you're passionate about. You can do this. With that self-drive to learn, practice, having patience and continuing the development of your skills, you will get there. You'll be doing this job for most of your day, so you might as well be doing what you love. As you've seen, throughout my time at uni, my focus was being a concept artist, and instead of focusing on that, I thought my skill set wasn't good enough, so I focused on something I thought I was stronger at, rather than what I was passionate about, which was concept art. I always wanted to be a concept artist, and who knows if I could have become one, if I just had that self-belief in myself and someone telling me that I could do it, like, who knows. So with that being said, there are people that have gotten into industry and progressed through different routes later down in their careers, where they've worked in their personal time to, say, go from environment artist to concept artist. Once you're in industry, you are still able to discover what you're passionate about, and with dedicated learning you can get to those roles later down the line. So now we are going on to the next part of my talk, breaking into industry. So more often than not, those who have finished the course at uni unfortunately kind of think that they're going to break in straight away. You need to be a little bit more flexible and realistic for your expectation for job roles, particularly with roles that are in high demand. Now, I'm not saying this to discourage you, but I know some people that it's taken them years to break in. Some have had to continuously work a job and work up their portfolios. But if you keep at it with that passion and drive to improve your portfolio, hopefully you will get there. If you're applying to jobs and finding that they're not getting back to you or you're not being accepted, it might just mean you need to spend a bit more time working on your portfolio and just getting your skills further refined to that next level that studios are needing for those entry-level positions. So now I'm going to take you back on how I broke in. Mid my second year, we had two speakers come in to teach us some modules. Two of our guest speakers here, David Woodman and Shal Mooney. They were both so professional, and this solidified it for me that this is what I wanted to do and become as a career more than ever. They're the type of artists that even today keep pushing the goal, which is great to keep growing artists like me on their toes. And that's what I love about this industry. You can see the works from other people, who they are, and be completely inspired constantly. Use that to help drive and motivate you to create. So back then I remember sitting there thinking, wow, I am so far away from any of this type of work. How could someone like me ever accomplish anything like that? And I reflected heavily on my own art. Honestly, at that point I really kind of wasn't pushing for it at that stage. I was self-sufficient, but I wanted to be as good as them, and I needed to do more. So from that point it was kind of like, best described like an on switch. Sure, I was okay at 2D, but I thought in order to get into the industry I'd have better chances by developing my 3D skills. So that kind of became my focus, and as I said before, I doubted myself and I thought I could never be a concept artist. So that's kind of what led me on the 3D path. So at that time, David's particular module was to create a building, and I was learning on 3ds Max, but he'd bought something in on Maya. And so I thought I would go out and learn some of the basics of Maya to try and understand how he'd produced the asset he was showing us. So to do that, I went out on YouTube and collected resources, as our tutors were specialised in Max, so they didn't know much about Maya. And I kind of feel like that was the first time things started properly clicking for me, the whole self-learning process, and I found I enjoyed it more and more with what I was discovering. Third year came along, I worked with two other peers in my class on a project, and I finished the course. And like I said before, you can see how much I've grown from first to second to third year. I still wasn't that great. Then I left university. Going back to what I said earlier about missed opportunities, I stupidly held myself back and did not apply to places because I did not believe in myself. When you finish your degree, apply. No one is amazing to start with, and the reality is, no one expects you to be amazing at an entry-level position. You're there at that point to learn, and they'll give you all the support that you need. Often some studios will reply with some feedback if they get the time to get back to you. In fact, if you find yourself developing a strong portfolio towards your final year, I'd suggest applying and just seeing, because who knows, someone might just spot your hard work and motivation for your portfolio and give you a shot. So in my opinion, compared to others that I know with their journeys with getting in, I feel like I was quite fortunate in that it only took me a year after completing university to break into the industry. I had 3 jobs to try and make ends meet. I'd work I've worked as a shop till worker, as an audio transcriber and a freelance artist for a product company. I just continued to work on my portfolio, so I completely recommend that you try and establish yourself a routine even after university, just to keep working up your portfolio, because hopefully it'll pay off as you develop your skills. So I then started developing the confidence to start applying to places. I'd messaged David into that year to see if there were any junior positions going at TT, but he let me know that there was nothing available. I'd also applied at TT Games Knutsford via their website. I was given a at-home art test for junior character artist, and this was my submission. It was to create my own version of a Lego Shaman character, and as a result of that I didn't get the job. I just thought, alright, I'm not ready or there yet, I'll just work more on my portfolio, I'll get better and I'll keep trying, which I did consistently. And a couple of months after that, I believe I got a message off of David, and he'd remembered that I was one of the only ones in the class who'd gone out of my way to go learn Maya on his module, and he recommended that I apply for junior 3D artist. So I did that. I attended the interview, which was with him and John Lomax, the head of the art department, and showed him my work. For these talks, I'd messaged David to ask why they chose me in the end, and he said out of all of the candidates that had applied that I was one of the strongest, and I'd been hired because I was hardworking, which was shown through my portfolio. I'd had a professional attitude and was keen, but the thing that clinched it for me was my colour theory and 2D work, which I'd shown them. So yeah, that's how I got in. And that now leads us on to the final section to my talk, which is beyond. So when I got into industry, that's when the real learning began. I don't remember my first day because I was just so nervous. My learning curve as soon as I got into the industry was just like a steep one. I learned so much in my first couple of years, it's really hard to comprehend. I had the tools, the basic knowledge, but now it was actually being applied into real situations. I learned here about problem solving in terms of environment, lighting, art, asset creation, design, everything that was along with working with others in their team disciplines. In fact, the first project that I worked on was Lego Jurassic World, and quite ironically was codenamed Project Amber, where I learned to become numb to my name. The people that I've come to know that like helped me in so many ways. One thing that I love about the industry is the people that you end up working with. Even at FireSprite now, everyone tries to teach you and you're constantly learning new things together. Eventually I was teaching new things to the people back at TT who were teaching me when I first started out. It's that kind of continued shared learning experience which I love so much. Just encouraging and pushing each other to learn and just make great games. It's just so important that you enjoy what you do and the people that you're surrounded with. So after I got promoted at TT to artist, I finally thought that it was time that I'd start working on my portfolio, just to try and get it to reflect the skills that I'd been developing at work. I thought that by using my free time to learn additional skills, I'd be able to kind of get to the next level with my own art, and it would benefit me not only professionally, but just overall, just become a stronger, improved artist. I was constantly being inspired by artists on ArtStation. There's just so many great artists that I look up to and aspire to be like, and it was because I was being exposed to that kind of work that it just made me want to just learn even more and just create even more and be like them. On that note, as an artist, I would totally recommend you look to ArtStation for inspiration, as well as a place to upload your own portfolio to showcase your work as part of your CV. I know I've been talking a lot about learning, but I'm also going to stop for a second and say also create and make without the purpose of it. It's just as important to have fun with what you make. I created the winter hot chocolate scene because I wanted to do something hand painted to remember my starting in the industry all those years ago. Just doing hand painted textures, familiarity to my start in the industry. It doesn't always have to have a specific goal. Don't forget to enjoy what you're making. And it was the same with the Retro Pixel Bike. That was just more something to remember those times when I was 11 years old, sat in my brother's room, clicking away on in MS Paint. I created Sean Mooney's tank because I really love how cute that design was. Like, I asked his permission. Have fun with what you make. It's so important that you enjoy what you do. As a 3D artist, just putting it out there, my biggest recommendation is to just go and collect reference, by the way. It's so important. You need visual imagery to be able to replicate or learn from what you see in order to create something. I'd suggest that you find some good concept designs. Obviously, ask permission first. It can save you so much time, and it just helps demonstrate an ability that you're able to take the works from others and visually translate them, which some companies are keen to see. Don't forget to credit those concept arts that you use. In industry, you will be working alongside some concept artists, and my time working with Sean Mooney, he is great to get the language of design, and working from his art back at TT Games was some of my favourite parts on the project. So all this self-learning outside of work then continued to lead me to creating the Haunted Chateau, where I wanted to focus more on materials and lighting understanding in Unreal Engine 4. If you noticed, each project, for the most part, I've taken what I've learned in my free time and just continued to go further with it. With this particular project, I'd asked my fellow co-workers for feedback, and when I thought I was done, I wasn't, I was far from it. And based on that feedback at the time, it completely changed everything, especially the lighting direction that I'd initially planned. It also added, it meant adding a load of additional assets. It made me realise that I wasn't being patient with my own learning and development, because I put so much pressure on myself just to finish it. After I'd put so much time into it without taking a break. But just by stopping, taking on a moment and just giving myself that bit extra time, I managed to create something even better than I could have ever have hoped for. I can just say this, that self-pressure can be good and it can also be bad. There's kind of like a fine balance, and it depends on the person. For those that might be interested in wanting to create a project like that, I did have the opportunity to write a level 80 article which has a more detailed breakdown of my process that I'll link at the end. Just to add on that, there are just so many level articles that help me in the construction of that project. I've been inspired by so many scenes, in particular Clinton Crumpler's article on his King Wash laundromat. I learned a lot from his breakdowns, and I wanted my project to achieve that level quality of work that he produced. We all learn from each other, and we can only do that from helping, teaching each other and sharing what our discoveries are. There are so many techniques you will learn with your time as you develop, just from learning from others. Find what works for you and gets the results that you need, and share that. As a 3D artist, my advice if you're taking on a big project like that would be to plan effectively and try not to take on too much at once. Break everything down in stages, maybe even if it means making a spreadsheet to help you organise and plan your assets with the individual passes that it may need. And I've said it so many times, but get feedback, it is so essential. Now I'm moving on to my next 3D environment scene, so I've got some specific goals set to achieve for that. As well as that, I intend to take some focus on other areas of learning that I'm interested in, such as hard surface techniques and concept art. So I guess now I'm going to wrap the end of this talk up. I'd also like to quickly thank Imagine Talks for allowing me to speak here today. I hope that some of what I've had to say here inspires you in some way. Join communities, and as you continue your learning journey, if you want to get in contact with me, feel free to reach out to me on my Twitter or ArtStation. I'll try to get back if I've got any time. I think the last thing I have to say is always support each other. The best people always look back on their way and they help others take the journeys together, so you never know, one day you'll be inspiring the future of other artists. So keep going, keep learning, and thank you for listening. Bye!